Hello, welcome to the morning show with Sybil and Mark.
Coming up on today's show, teenage alcoholism is becoming more and more of a problem. We'll be talking to two men who've battled to overcome drink addiction in two very different ways.
Now, we've all had to face some obstacle in life, but what's the key to overcoming them? Psychotherapist and author of The Happiness Habit, Brian Colbert, will be here to offer some advice.
And hats off to a lady who will turn something old and outdated into something new and trendy for your head.
Now, our first guest began drinking at the age of 14 and has just written an honest account of his alcoholism.
Paul Garrigan's story took him from the quiet suburbs of Dublin to begging on the streets of London, getting paid to drink in Oxford and swigging illegal booze in Saudi Arabia, before finally ending up in a remote Thai village.
In the beginning, I had no stomach for it. And I would drink a flagon of cider and I'd be the sickest one there, but I still loved the effects, so I was determined to master the skill of drinking. And so, but by the time I got to England, I was drinking. I got a job in a bar there, working behind a bar, and then I could drink all day, every day. I remember when I was 20, like telling my girlfriend, I thought it was a accomplishment that I drank 20 pints. We'd come back to Dublin at this stage, and I thought it was the most amazing feat ever. I thought like I won the Olympics or something, you know. I went from one treatment centre to another, but at various times, but it was always for other people. And basically, when I was about 24, I ended up in the streets of London, and terrible time of my life, but I got sober for 2 years, but then I drank again after that. But I qualified as a nurse along the way as well. And the idea of Saudi was, it was another attempt to control my drink, because I sort of felt if I moved to a country where it was illegal, that it would solve my problem. That was a huge mistake. There was more alcohol there than anything else. It was everywhere. And I wasn't happy in Saudi. And I sort of said, if I was going to drink myself to death, I'd rather do it somewhere I actually liked being. Because I didn't fit in with Saudi Arabia. So I moved to Thailand. For 5 years, I just stayed drinking in Thailand and just continued to deteriorate.
And Paul Garrigan joins us now.
Morning to you, Paul.
Good morning to you. Thanks very much for having me on the show.
You've an interesting story, I'll tell you. All around the world, running from drink and then deciding to drink, and now you're clean and sober.
Yep. It was a very strange journey.
But what was it that kicked it off?
I was always fascinated with alcohol. I mean, my heroes, like people like Brendan Behan. I mean, like when I was sort of hitting my teens, the Pogues had just come into fashion. It was all seemed really glamorous, and alcohol seemed to offer you this sort of confidence. And it's, you know, people could do crazy things when you're drunk. You could do amazing things, and people say, "Oh, you know, he's just letting his hair down."
Yeah.
And I wanted some of that. You know, I wanted some of that for myself. And so as soon as I sort of, you know, as soon as the opportunity came to drink, I mean, I went with my parents, separated, and it was a very stressful time. And that gave me the ideal key to sort of try out this booze. Mm-hmm. And in the beginning, the great thing was it worked in the beginning. You know, I did all these things. It gave me confidence. Suddenly I could speak to girls, you know, and it was great. Mm-hmm. But I had this idea, if a small bit of alcohol does this, if I drink a lot more, it'll work even better. And so that's basically where my journey started, you know. And in the beginning, it seemed to affect, like other people were complaining about my drinking, but it took me a very, very long time before I could really accept that it was me that was the problem and not other people.
Yeah.
Okay, but most people, whether their addiction is with food, alcohol, drugs, will look for a reason. And it's good that you're acknowledging that though you were traumatised by the breakup of your parents' marriage, that it was just that was your excuse to drink.
Yeah, that's how I feel. I mean, I'll tell you later about the temple, but one of the things they made clear to me was this idea, you know, that alcohol is a tool, you know, that we use, you know, and we pick it up, and because it works in the beginning, you know, we obviously use it, but our problem is that when it stops working, we don't stop, you know, we continue to do these crazy things, you know, so.
Tell us, you found your perfect job, I guess, working in a bar where you said you could just drink all day and no one really noticed or minded.
Oh, but it was part of the job, you know, and this is like back in the late 80s and early 90s. I mean, like you really could drink behind a bar in England. There was, you know, it was rude not to, you know, because people would be buying you like you were only to drink halves, but that didn't make the slightest difference in the world.
Yeah.
Like, you know, you drink all day. And like if someone says, you know, you'd see it on the TV, people say, have one yourself. Like that's exactly how it was, you know.
Yeah.
And it was fantastic.
Yeah, but was your hand slipping when you were having that one yourself?
My hand slipping.
Were you giving yourself bigger measures?
You would do. I mean, I'd sort of sneak down to the cellar and open a bottle of pills when I was changing a barrel or something, because, you know, there was something I liked. I always, from the beginning, I always liked this idea of getting away with something.
Yeah.
And this was a great thing with me with booze, being drunk and other people not knowing was fantastic for me because it was like I was getting away with something. But of course I wasn't. Like everyone knew exactly what I was up to. But you know, in my head I thought it was like getting this, like coasting through life. You know, like but only halfway there. You know.
Was it when you were in England that you qualified as a nurse?
When I was in England, yeah. It was after about, I mean, basically what happened was when I was about 20, I mean, I entered treatment first at 20. I came back to Ireland for that. But when I was about 25, I ended up in the streets of London, and I was in a terrible state. But I got back into treatment again. And during that time, I got into university and I trained to be a nurse.
During that time, were you drinking?
I stopped for 2 years. And I got into university and I started all that things. It was going really well. But at that period in my life, because my life was going so well, I sort of felt I deserved something. Because for me, like I wanted to be a student. I mean, I left school at 15. I got kicked out of school at 15 for drinking, like for stealing altar wine, basically. But I always sort of felt I'd been cheated out of something. So like even when I was drinking, I went back and did my A levels, but I managed to. My idea of going to university was this idea of sitting in a student union bar, drinking and reading a book. That to me, that's what it was all about. And I mightn't have admit that, but that's what I wanted. I wanted to be this person that could look intelligent, sitting in a bar reading a book. And like, you know, so when I got that and I wasn't drinking, it sort of felt like something was missing. I felt I was missing out on the whole student thing.
Tell us, you moved to Saudi Arabia.
Yeah.
You thought to escape the drinking culture.
Exactly.
But it was even worse over there.
It was a lot worse over there. I went there because drinking was illegal. That's what I thought. And it is illegal. You know, he could go to prison for it. But as soon as I landed in Saudi, like I went there as a nurse, I landed in the compound, and one of the first things I found out on the very first night was that we had loads of booze. And like, you know, my villa mate, he showed me the still we had. It was big dustbins full of booze. And you know, you go to a shop in Riyadh and everything you needed to brew was in the exact same place, so it was so easy, so you wouldn't have to look for things. So he knew what was going on, but he just sort of keep it on the compound, and they'll ignore you. And like, you know, the stuff like Sid, like it's a very, very strong spirit that they have in Saudi. And like, you know, it's just so powerful. You know, it's like poutine. And so everything you be drinking, it's free, it's basically free, and it's there, and you can just stay. It was the worst place in the world that I could go.
Okay. Yeah. You went to Saudi because you acknowledged that you had a problem, and you thought, if I'm there, there isn't a drink culture there. Yeah. So that might help. Were you just running away from yourself?
I always had, there was this idea, there's this in Thailand you have this sort of saying, it was more a story about the temple dogs, you know, in the temples in Thailand, they've all got fleas. And what they'll do, these dogs will move from one part of the temple to another all day. Like they'll scratch themselves and then move to a different part of the temple and scratch themselves again, because you don't realise they're taking the fleas with them. And that's how it was for me. I didn't, you know, I thought if I moved somewhere else, everything would change. And it would for a week because you're in a new environment, but you know, your problems just very quickly catch back up with you again, you know.
You moved to Thailand
Yes.
because you decided that if you're going to drink yourself to death, it might as well be in somewhere nice.
Exactly.
But Thailand was the place where you were ultimately saved from the addiction.
It was, yeah. It took. I mean, I was Thailand for 5 years before I found my you know, I found this temple. But during that 5 years, my life deteriorated. Like sort of, I never ended up in the streets again. But there was no. But by the end of it, there was not one single bit of enjoyment left in alcohol. Like there was no enjoyment left in alcohol whatsoever. You know, there was nothing. There was no point in. You know, my day. I mean, I drank just to function. I mean, if I could get some bottles into me in the morning, I could get through the day. If I didn't, I would spend the day shaking, and that's what it was all about at the end. Okay. And I felt I tried everything, because through all these years, every book I'd read, every book, you know, I was going on the internet. One of my favourite things was going into a pub and reading about getting sober, you know, just crazy stuff like that. And so, but by the time I heard about the temple, I was completely and utterly defeated. Right. And I sort of made this promise to myself. I didn't believe I had a chance anymore, but I said, okay, I'll give this one thing one more shot, and if it doesn't work, I'm not going to try anything ever again. I'll just go with the drink.
It's a Buddhist temple.
It is a Buddhist temple, but it's open to anyone. I mean, it's not a religious thing.
Yeah. What did they do?
It's a very, very unique place. I mean, they offer something. You can only go there one time. There's no second chances. You know, there's no revolving door. If you go there and it doesn't work, that's it. You're finished. That's part of it. But it's very, very simple. Like they told me something very simple when I went there, that if you stop drinking, your life will get better. I never thought about it that way before. Because me, it was all about these complicated things that I had to do, and you know. But they just said it's very simple. Stop drinking, and your life will get better. And one thing that they said to me the very first day is, "Listen, we cannot get you sober," which shocked me. You know, I said, "Well, have I come to the wrong place then?" Like they are clear, you know, you have to be, this has to come from you. We can give you tools that will help you in recovery, but we cannot give you that determination. That has to come from you.
Is that why you stay in Thailand?
No, I'd already lived there 5 years, and I could just continue to live there. I have family there now and stuff.
And how long did it take, the whole process in the temple?
I was there. I was just there over 2 weeks, which was enough for me. I mean, some people stay longer, but I mean, there was no need. I mean, I'd been going to AA meetings for 2 years every day, and it didn't. You know, I mean, I've great respect for them, but I mean, it didn't work for me.
So two weeks cleared 20 years of drinking.
Yeah, I left that temple and I felt completely like it was finished. I mean, I'd never, for 20 years, whether I drank or when I didn't drink, even after 2 years sober, I still felt I was fighting an addiction. When I left there one beautiful morning. It was before dawn because I had to go on my motorbike, and I left that temple knowing that it was over. You know, it was an amazing experience. It was the first day of my life that I wasn't worried about my addiction, which was, you know, in 20 years was an amazing thing.
And it's still like that now, today?
That's exactly how I feel today. And they make this promise, you know, there's this thing, it's called a satya vow in the temple, that if you stick to your vow, I promise now I'll never drink again. If you stick to your vow, great things will happen in your life. And that's been, in my experience, like 100%. I don't know if it's magic or what it is, but it does work. And I don't care ultimately what it is, I just know it works.
Okay. Well, we'll be joined shortly by another guest who has also come face to face with alcohol addiction. But firstly, take a quick look at this.
Got two left to jump. Hear the echo. Paddy Flood, Royal County star Timmy Murphy in third place. Not Repair. Hear the echo is the leader. Royal County star in second, and back in third place. Not Repair. But Hear the Echo in the colours of the Gigginstown stud comes down to the final fence in the Powers National. Out in front, over the last, it's Hear the Echo, and Paddy Flood in the colours of Gigginstown House stud for Michael Morris. Hear the Echo is going to race away with the National, wins it by 8 to 10 lengths. Royal County star second, Not Repair is third.
I was keen, I was running away everywhere. I tried to get a blow on him, I couldn't. I just jumped from fence to fence. And I turned in and I just picked up again. You know, I'd plenty of horse underneath me turning in.
Paddy Flood there, winning the Irish Grand National in 2008. Paddy, you're very welcome to the programme this morning. Like Paul, you started drinking at, even earlier than Paul, you started drinking at the age of 11.
Yeah, I was an early starter, I suppose. I can remember it well. I can remember being in primary school, going on a school tour one day. One of the lads brought something in a clear bottle mixed with lemonade, and listen, it had no effect on me or had nothing. I only took a mouthful, but that's where it started.
That's what started,
you know?
yeah.
And did it develop through your early teenage years?
Oh, yeah. I was always in my head a lot as a teenager. I was good at sport. I wasn't much interested in schoolwork or anything like that. But I went into secondary school, I suppose, at 13. And I didn't enjoy it. I was after coming from a very safe primary school where I knew everyone and everything was fun. And into a secondary school I didn't enjoy. And I had been riding horses at the stage. I had a part-time job at 12 on the weekends. But I start dabbling in drugs, you know, just, I suppose, I don't know, as attention, maybe looking for attention, but because I was isolating myself, I didn't know how to ask for help or anything like that.
So would you reckon you have an addictive personality?
Oh, most definitely, yeah. Yeah, I could get addicted to anything, I think. You know, whether it be sweets, anything. Put them in front of me if I like them. I'll probably overdo it, you know. Yeah,
Well, you were saved from the drugs because you had to do a drug test for horse riding.
Yeah, you have to give a drug sample for to get your license, and that was at 15. And lucky enough, thanks be to God, that I did have to do that because I stopped straight away. You know, I stopped a month before the test, and I passed the test, and lucky enough, I haven't touched them since. You know.
But then you started drinking kind of more to compensate.
Yeah, definitely the drink filled the hole that the drugs was gone. You know, but I had a very good friend in Kieran Kelly, who, God rest his soul, who got killed off a horse in the yard which I was working. Heard the news. You know, I'd never grieved or I'd never experienced a death or anyone close to me. But as Paul said, it was an excuse to drink.
Yeah.
Do you know, it was as good an excuse as I could get.
Yeah.
It did hurt. but the drink covered the hurt, and as time went on, it was, do you know, Asher, listen, he's grieving, do you know, it'll come over him.
Yeah. You were still functioning as a jockey. You were riding races hungover and even drunk, you were saying.
Yeah, well, listen, I was very fit, you know, from a young age. I was playing plenty of soccer. At the same, doing all this, from the outside looking in, I looked like a person doing really well, normal teenager, enjoying life. Listen, as I say, I'm an alcoholic, but I could be the best lawyer in the world, you know. I can like have different faces for everything, for everyone. But at the same time, I was still fit, and the drink wasn't taking over my body physically yet, and I was doing my job. And listen, I was drinking all night, but I was struggling to get up for work now, but I was still able to ride a race.
Was there like a drink culture among the Irish jockeys?
Yeah.
Like from your time,